You've been cooking with it, drizzling it on salads, believing you were making the healthy choice. But what if the science has been telling us a different story all along? There's something sitting in your kitchen right now, probably right next to your stove, labeled "Heart Healthy" on the bottle. And I need to tell you something that might surprise you. That oil might be quietly damaging your arteries while you think you're doing the right thing. After 2 decades of working with heart patients, I've had the same conversation hundreds of times. Someone sits in my office, confused and frustrated, asking me, "Doc, I switched to vegetable oil like I was told. I cut out butter. I've been so careful. So why are my arteries still clogged?" That's when I have to explain something that makes a lot of people angry. We've been given incomplete information about cooking oils. Not because doctors are trying to mislead you, but because the advice we've been giving was based on old research that only looked at part of the picture. Today, I'm going to walk you through 4 oils that are marketed as heart healthy, but may actually be working against you. Then I'll share the 4 oils that decades of real-world use and modern research show actually support arterial health. And the 4th one, it's something your grandmother probably cooked with before we told her it was dangerous. Turns out, she might have been right all along. Welcome to a conversation I wish I could have with every patient. I'm going to explain this the way I'd explain it to my own family, because that's what matters to me. Not fancy medical terms, not corporate-approved talking points. Just the truth about what these oils do inside your body and why it matters for your heart. Understanding what's really happening. Let me start by explaining something important. Your arteries aren't just tubes carrying blood. They're living tissue that's constantly working to stay healthy. Every day, your arterial walls are repairing small damages, fighting inflammation, and trying to stay smooth and flexible. Now, certain types of fats, when they break down in your body, create inflammation. Think of inflammation like a low-grade fire burning inside your blood vessels. A little bit is normal, even helpful for healing. But when that fire keeps burning year after year, decade after decade, that's when problems start. The oils I'm going to talk about today are high in something called omega-6 fatty acids. Your body needs some omega-6, but here's the catch. It also needs omega-3 fatty acids to balance things out. Our ancestors ate these 2 types of fats in roughly equal amounts. Today, most people are eating 15 to 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. What happens when that ratio gets out of balance? Your body shifts toward inflammation. It's like turning up the volume on your immune system and forgetting to turn it back down. Over time, that chronic inflammation contributes to the arterial damage that leads to heart disease. And here's the thing that really gets me. These oils often get damaged before you even open the bottle. The way they're processed, the temperatures they're exposed to, the chemical solvents used to extract them, all of that creates changes in the oil that your body has to deal with when you eat it. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you information that helps you make better choices. Because I've seen what happens when people switch from these inflammatory oils to more stable, traditional fats. Their blood work improves. Their energy comes back. They feel better. And their arteries slowly but surely start to heal. Why the advice changed? You might be wondering, if these oils are problematic, why did doctors recommend them for so long? Back in the 1950s and 60s, researchers noticed that people who ate a lot of saturated fat seemed to have more heart disease. So the advice became, cut out saturated fat, switch to vegetable oils. It seemed logical at the time, but that early research missed something crucial. It wasn't just about lowering cholesterol numbers. It was about what those oils actually did inside the body. And we're learning now that some of these heart-healthy oils, especially when heated, create compounds that may actually promote the very inflammation and arterial damage we're trying to prevent. The food industry loved this advice because these oils were cheap to produce and had a long shelf life. Store shelves filled with products made with vegetable oils. And for decades, we all believed we were making the healthy choice. But science evolves. We learn more. And what we're learning now suggests we need to rethink some of those old recommendations. The 4 oils to reconsider. Let me walk you through 4 oils that are heavily marketed as heart healthy. But the research is telling us a more complicated story. Oil number 1, canola oil. Canola oil is everywhere. It's in restaurant kitchens, in packaged foods, probably in your pantry right now. It's been promoted as a healthy alternative to saturated fats because it's low in saturated fat and has some omega-3. But here's what most people don't know about how canola oil is made. Canola comes from rapeseed plants that were bred to be lower in certain compounds. To get the oil out, manufacturers use high heat and a chemical solvent called hexane, which is derived from petroleum. Then the oil goes through more processing, degumming, bleaching, and deodorizing at temperatures around 450 degrees. Why does this matter? Because all that heat and processing can damage the delicate fatty acids in the oil before it ever reaches your kitchen. The oil starts oxidizing, which means it's already beginning to break down and form compounds that promote inflammation in your body. And here's the kicker. When you bring that bottle home and heat it again in your pan, you're continuing that oxidation process. Those damaged fatty acids get absorbed into your cells, incorporated into your cell membranes, and can contribute to the inflammatory processes in your arteries. I had a patient, James, who religiously used canola oil because he'd read it was heart healthy. He cooked everything in it. His cholesterol numbers were okay, but his inflammatory markers, things like C-reactive protein, were elevated. When he switched to more stable oils, those inflammation numbers dropped within 3 months. That's not a miracle. That's just what happens when you stop feeding your body something it has to constantly fight against. Oil number 2, corn oil. Corn oil has been marketed heavily as clinically proven to lower cholesterol. And technically that's true. Studies have shown it can lower LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol. But here's what those commercials don't tell you. Lowering cholesterol is only beneficial if it actually reduces your risk of heart attacks and improves your overall health. And some research suggests that while corn oil lowers cholesterol numbers, it may increase markers of oxidative stress and inflammation. Think about it this way. If I told you I had a treatment that made your lab numbers look better, but actually made you feel worse and increased your risk of problems, would you want that treatment? Of course not. But that's essentially what's happening with some of these oils. Corn oil is about 60% linoleic acid, an omega-6 fat. When you consume large amounts of omega-6 without enough omega-3 to balance it, your body's inflammatory pathways get activated. It's like constantly revving your car's engine without ever letting it cool down. The oil goes through similar processing as canola: solvent extraction, high heat chemical treatment. By the time it reaches your kitchen, it's a highly refined product that bears little resemblance to anything natural. I'm not saying corn oil will immediately harm you. I'm saying that when you use it day after day, year after year, as your primary cooking fat, you may be creating a chronic inflammatory state in your body that contributes to the very heart disease you're trying to prevent. Oil number 3, soybean oil. Here's the sneaky one. You probably don't have a bottle labeled soybean oil in your pantry. But check your ingredient labels on packaged foods. Anytime you see vegetable oil listed, that's almost always soybean oil. It's the most consumed oil in America. It's in salad dressings, mayonnaise, baked goods, snack foods, restaurant meals. It's everywhere because it's incredibly cheap and has a neutral flavor that doesn't interfere with food taste. But soybean oil is about 50% linoleic acid, that omega-6 fat I keep mentioning. And some animal research has raised concerns about its effects on obesity, diabetes, and fatty liver disease. Now, animal studies don't always translate directly to humans, but they give us clues about potential mechanisms we should pay attention to. What concerns me most is how ubiquitous this oil has become. Even if soybean oil in moderation isn't a problem, most people aren't consuming it in moderation. They're consuming it at every meal, often without even realizing it, because it's hidden in so many processed foods. One of my patients, Linda, started reading labels and was shocked to find soybean oil in her whole wheat bread, her healthy granola bars, her canned soup, even her frozen vegetables that came in sauce. She wasn't deliberately choosing soybean oil, but she was consuming massive amounts of it without knowing. When she switched to preparing more meals from scratch with different fats, she noticed her joint pain decreased, and she had more stable energy throughout the day. Her body was simply dealing with less inflammatory burden. Oil number 4, sunflower oil. Sunflower oil sounds so wholesome, doesn't it? There's usually a big, cheerful sunflower on the bottle. It's high in vitamin E. It seems natural. But there are 2 types of sunflower oil, and this is where it gets confusing. High oleic sunflower oil, which is bred to be higher in monounsaturated fats, is actually fairly stable and okay to use. But regular sunflower oil, the high linoleic type, is about 68% omega-6 fatty acids. And when you heat regular sunflower oil to high temperatures, which most people do when they cook, it creates compounds called aldehydes. These are the same types of compounds found in cigarette smoke and exhaust fumes. They're toxic to cells and can damage DNA. European studies have found that when sunflower oil is used for deep frying or high-heat cooking, it produces more of these harmful aldehydes than other oils. Your body then has to deal with these compounds, breaking them down, trying to minimize their damage. The vitamin E in sunflower oil, which is supposed to be beneficial, can't compensate for the oxidative damage created when the oil is heated beyond its limits. I tell my patients, if you have sunflower oil at home, check the label. If it says high oleic, it's more stable. If it doesn't specify, assume it's the high linoleic type and consider using it only for cold applications like salad dressings, never for cooking. Or better yet, switch to one of the more stable oils I'm about to tell you about. Making the switch. 4 oils that actually help. Now here's the good news. There are oils that have been used for centuries, that are stable when heated, that don't create that inflammatory burden in your body. These are the oils I use in my own kitchen and recommend to my patients. Oil number 1, extra virgin olive oil. If you only make one change after reading this, make it this. Start using extra virgin olive oil as your primary fat. Olive oil is about 73% oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that's very stable and doesn't oxidize easily. It's been a cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet for thousands of years, and populations that consume olive oil regularly have some of the lowest rates of heart disease in the world. The PREDIME study, one of the largest nutrition studies ever done, found that people who consumed extra virgin olive oil as part of a Mediterranean diet had about a 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events compared to those on a low-fat diet. But here's what makes olive oil special. It's not just about the type of fat. Extra virgin olive oil contains polyphenol, natural plant compounds that act as antioxidants in your body. These polyphenol help prevent LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, which is actually the form of cholesterol that causes problems in your arteries. Think of it this way. Cholesterol itself isn't the enemy. Oxidized, damaged cholesterol that your immune system attacks, and that leads to plaque formation. That's the problem. Olive oil helps prevent that oxidation from happening. I've had patients worry that they can't cook with olive oil because it has a low smoke point. That's actually a myth. Extra virgin olive oil is stable up to about 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is plenty for most home cooking. You can sauté with it, roast with it, even bake with it. Look for olive oil in dark glass bottles, which protects it from light damage. Check for a harvest date if possible, because olive oil is best used within a year or 2 of harvest. And don't be afraid to use it generously. The fat in olive oil helps you absorb vitamins from your vegetables and keeps you satisfied after meals. Oil number 2, avocado oil. If you need to cook at higher temperatures, avocado oil is your friend. It has a smoke point around 520 degrees, which means it stays stable even when you're searing meat or roasting vegetables at high heat. Like olive oil, avocado oil is about 70% oleic acid. It's got a similar fat profile, but without the strong flavor, which some people prefer for certain dishes. It's also rich in lutein, which is good for eye health, and contains plant sterols that may help with cholesterol management. What I like about avocado oil is its versatility. You can use it for just about any cooking method without worrying about it breaking down and forming harmful compounds. That peace of mind matters. It's more expensive than the seed oils we've been talking about, but think of it this way. You're investing in your health. The money you spend on quality oil now is money you might save on medications and medical bills later. Look for cold-pressed, unrefined avocado oil when possible. And be aware that there's been some concern about adulteration in the avocado oil market, so buy from reputable brands. Oil number 3, coconut oil. Now we're getting to the controversial one. For years, coconut oil was demonized because it's high in saturated fat. About 82% of coconut oil is saturated fat, which seems to violate everything we've been told about heart health. But here's what's interesting. The type of saturated fat in coconut oil is different from the saturated fat in, say, a ribeye steak. Coconut oil is high in medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs, which your body metabolizes differently. They're absorbed directly from your intestines and used quickly for energy, rather than being stored as fat. More importantly, large reviews of the research have found that coconut oil doesn't increase heart disease risk the way we thought it would. A 2020 meta-analysis found no significant link between coconut oil consumption and increased cardiovascular disease. The key thing about coconut oil is that it's incredibly stable. Saturated fats don't oxidize easily, which means coconut oil can sit in your pantry for months without going rancid, and it doesn't create harmful compounds when you cook with it. I'm not saying you should eat coconut oil by the spoonful or that it's a miracle food. I'm saying it's a stable, traditional fat that humans have consumed for thousands of years, and the fear around it may have been overblown. Use it for baking, for sautéing, for any medium heat cooking. Virgin coconut oil has a coconut flavor that works great in certain dishes. Refined coconut oil is more neutral if you don't want that tropical taste. Oil number 4. Ghee clarified butter. Here's where we come full circle, back to traditional fats our ancestors used before we decided they were dangerous. Ghee is butter with the milk solids removed. What's left is almost pure butterfat, which is incredibly stable and can be heated to high temperatures without burning. It has a smoke point around 485 degrees. But ghee isn't just about cooking performance. It contains fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K2. That K2 is particularly interesting for heart health because it helps direct calcium to your bones instead of your arteries. Arterial calcification is a major component of heart disease, and K2 may help prevent it. Ghee also contains butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that has anti-inflammatory properties and supports gut health. Gut health and heart health are more connected than most people realize. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Doc, you're telling me to eat butter? Not exactly. I'm telling you that the butter we demonized may not have been the problem. The problem was processed foods, sugar, refined carbohydrates, and yes, those oxidized seed oils, all working together to create metabolic chaos. When you look at populations that consume full-fat dairy, including butter and ghee, they don't have higher rates of heart disease. In fact, some studies suggest they have lower rates. That's not what we expected, but that's what the data shows. Use ghee anywhere you'd use butter or oil. It's fantastic for roasting vegetables, cooking eggs, even spreading on toast. Look for ghee made from grass-fed butter if possible, as it has a better omega-3 to omega-6 ratio and more vitamins. Practical steps for your kitchen. I know this is a lot of information. Let me make it simple with some practical steps you can take starting today. First, go through your pantry and read labels. Look for canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, often listed as vegetable oil, and sunflower oil. You don't have to throw everything away today, but start making a plan to replace these items as you run out. Second, stock your kitchen with the 4 helpful oils we talked about: extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and ghee. You don't need all for immediately. Start with olive oil if you're on a budget. That one change alone will make a significant difference. Third, think about how you're cooking. For low to medium heat, olive oil and ghee work great. For high heat, reach for avocado oil. For baking, coconut oil and ghee are excellent choices. Fourth, store your oils properly. Keep them in a cool, dark place. Buy smaller bottles that you'll use within a few months rather than giant containers that sit for a year. Once oils oxidize, even the good ones lose their benefits. Fifth, don't reuse cooking oils. Every time you heat oil, especially to high temperatures, you're creating more oxidation. Restaurants often reuse frying oil multiple times, which is one reason I suggest limiting fried restaurant food. And finally, remember that oils are just one piece of the puzzle. You also want to increase your omega-3 intake through fatty fish, walnuts, and flax seeds. That helps balance out any omega-6 you're still consuming and further reduces inflammation. What to expect when you make the switch? When my patients switch from seed oils to more traditional fats, they often notice changes within a few weeks to a few months. Energy levels improve. Joint pain decreases. Skin looks better. Brain fog lifts. These aren't miraculous transformations. They're simply what happens when you stop burdening your body with inflammatory compounds. Blood work often improves too. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein tend to decrease. Triglycerides often come down. Some patients find their blood sugar becomes more stable. But the most important changes are the ones you can't see. The reduction in arterial inflammation, the decrease in oxidative stress, the the improvement in endothelial function. These are the changes that reduce your long-term risk of heart attack and stroke. The bottom line. Look, I'm not here to make you paranoid about food or to add more stress to your life. I'm here to give you information that empowers you to make better choices. The story we were told about cooking oils was incomplete. We were told to fear saturated fat and embrace vegetable oils, but that advice didn't account for how those oils are processed, how they behave when heated, and how they affect inflammation in the body. You deserve better than outdated advice based on incomplete research. You deserve to know that the oils marketed as heart-healthy might be working against your health goals. And you deserve to know that there are traditional time-tested options that actually support your body instead of burdening it. This isn't about perfection. You don't have to eliminate every drop of seed oil from your diet, but making olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and ghee your primary fats? That's a change that can make a real difference in how you feel today and in your health outcomes decades from now. Your arteries are working hard to keep you healthy. Give them the best chance possible by choosing fats that support their function instead of undermining it. Your heart will thank you for it.